So I'm currently on the phone with Dan Bauer. He's another musician that reached out about the current interview series. So I'm going to go ahead and give him the chance to introduce himself.
Hey, how's it going? My name's Dan Bauer. I'm pretty new to Colorado. Been here since November. I come from New Hampshire, and I'm a singer-songwriter, multi-instrumentalist, and producer.
Awesome. So I always kind of like to find out, when a musician started with music. So when did you first encounter it? What about it kind of, made you want to connect with it and have a life with music?
So it's funny. I often think back to this class when I was in sixth grade. It was called music appreciation, and it was one of the artsy electives or non-electives, like the mandatory artsy classes they kind of make you take in addition to the core English, math type stuff. Way back in the day, and I remember walking in there, and I thought I was some sort of like edgy sixth grade or whatever, and I was like, "Music appreciation, what a joke! I don't appreciate music," and I hated the class, and it was the worst. And I was living in Massachusetts back then. But then when my family moved to New Hampshire when I was about 12, we finally we had like a house instead of like a real small house. So
Mm.
in the basement, like totally unfinished basement, we just had enough room to store a bunch of junk, including my dad's old drums. And he was able to finally play those again, which he wasn't. At the place we were all living until I turned 12. And then when my dad started just playing the drums and they were just there, I basically just kind of got into it and just started, I'd have a big speaker system in the basement, just play like Offspring and some 41 songs all day, just blast those and play the drums to them. So I just
Nice.
kind of learned that. Yeah, I just kind of learned drums at 12, guitar at about 15, and then bass and piano at about 17. And then just kind of started doing some real formal, songwriting and recordings when I was about 19. The first 100-ish songs that I recorded are mostly garbage. But I think around 2017 or 18, I really started honing the craft, I would say, a little bit better.
Okay. And so it sounds like you have pretty extensive experience, playing instruments and then also writing music throughout your teenage years. Did you participate in like the traditional curriculum, like in school as well, or was it kind of all out of school?
No, no. I only took of all the instruments and production and whatever and stuff. The only lessons I took a few. I used to watch like a bunch of YouTube videos on how to know what you're doing production wise, and I reached out to one of the guys whose channels offered private lessons. So I did that for a couple months, and I did guitar lessons when I first got into guitar for about a year, and when I was 15. And truly, all I did was learn Offspring songs on guitar. And by the way, I haven't listened to them in probably like 10 years, but it's just that was kind of my formative band. So I don't really think that's my taste. But they yeah, I basically just learned Offspring songs every week, and then after about a year, my mom was like, "All right, so this is going to be your last guitar lesson this week. So I hope you're going to learn what you ought to learn." And so I talked to my instructor that day. And I'm like, "All right, I should learn like something about music that's not just this band's discography." And so eventually, or that day actually, he wrote down just a little sheet, basic thing on like how to make scales and make sense of the whole thing. And just with that one sheet of paper, I was like, "Yep, this all makes sense to me." And I just kind of started writing from there.
Okay, and so just to kind of track that a bit, you started on drums and then started picking up other instrumentation, but then you landed on guitar, and that's where you have been doing your like primary writing.
Well, I would actually say I do probably my primary writing on piano now, more so even than guitar, but it really varies by the album. I've put out at this, I did take a bit of a circuitous path to get to the singer-songwriter stage of my, I guess, musical journey, because when I was in my mid 20s, I actually did hip hop, and I was making hip hop beats and doing rap battles in New York and like all this, whatever. But I even have like a half a dozen music videos for like hip hop that are like like fully produced and stuff. But I eventually just sort of gave up on that, for various reasons. But my writing, I wouldn't say that like I've landed on guitar or anything like that. half the time the songs just come to me as melodies, and I just pull out my phone and record whatever melody comes to the head, and then I'll see if that sounds good on piano or acoustic guitar. It varies by the album. I mean, at this point on Spotify, I guess I have 3 albums out. The first one probably, it was like 8 tracks. I'll probably say about 5 or 6 of them were guitar led. The next album, of the 9 tracks, 8 of them were guitar led. But then on my last album that I just put out this past fall, it was 11 songs, and it was about a 5-to-6 split. And then I'm actually dropping 2 albums this summer, and the lead instrument on them is guitar for only 3 songs out of the total of 13 songs on the 2 albums. And then there's like piano for the rest of them, and synth for one, and then organ for one. So it's just really disparate at this point, to be honest.
Awesome. I mean, that's good though. You're getting good variety out of there. As you said, there's multiple different instruments taking the lead for each song. That's great.
Yeah. Thanks. It's
all right. So that kind of brings us up to what you're working on now. You went into some detail about, the releases that you have out. Give me some background information. How did you get to the point where you're writing it and then recording it? And then do you also have plans to like bring in other instrumentalists to do any parts or fill out a live set?
Yeah. The songs, like I say, in terms of how they get written, they more often than not spontaneously just pop into my head, and that's it. And there's the melody, and I got it. And then I just have to go find an instrument to figure out what it sounds best on. And it's usually very intuitive. And even the song, when it comes into my head, I already know like what instrument it's going to sound best on, or however. It's the piano songs. I would say much more often will come. Will come into fruition by me just sitting there, tinkering around on piano with no real direction. And then sometimes I'll stumble upon something that I like. That almost never happens on guitar. And I really only write on acoustic guitar even now anyway. I've only written like one electric guitar written, electric guitar led song in probably about 3 years or so. But yeah, I'm sorry. The second part of the question, you said, how did they come to existence, and what was the second part of that?
How are you going about recording? Are you doing it like in your own project studio, or do you have a studio that you book out?
Oh yeah, great. So yeah, no, I do everything just myself at my place, just in my room, with which some people look at and they say, well, that diminishes the legitness of the art or whatever. And I just thoroughly disagree. I don't think you need to pay to make your art better. I just think that's not correct. You definitely pay an engineer. I'd say I do everything myself. I work with an audio engineer closely when the albums are being mixed or mastered, or if I have to reach out, for like on my last album, I had on one song I had a French horn part, another song I had a sax part. This upcoming album I have like a bagpipe part on a song. There's just certain like obscure instruments that I can't play, but I do always write all the parts out. Like I'll do the MIDI on the keyboard that sounds exactly what I want it to sound like, and then I'll just hire someone from Fiverr or ask a friend or something like that. But yeah, no, there's I don't consult anyone in terms of the creative composition of the actual music. I do all the instruments that I can, and the ones that I don't own or can't play, I just I'll hire someone to play the part that I've already written.
Sure. So you mentioned that you feel that doing it all yourself and doing it in a project studio kind of diminishes the art.
No, I don't think it does. I don't think it does.
I just wanted to comment on that sentiment. I completely disagree with that. I don't think that doing it yourself or in a project studio kind of diminishes that at all, especially in the way that, our current industry is. Project studios and people doing it on their own are becoming more and more prolific, the more cheaper that it gets, expensively. I think it's very valid for an artist to be in complete control of what they're creating. If anything, it's more encouraging to the art because you don't have that constant battle with a producer or an audio engineer or a studio manager, constantly trying to pass the buck along, getting you to record and then out the door so they can get the next person in, kind of thing.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I agree. It's good to let things marinate and develop. Uh, you know, I also think it's I have an analogy that I often make when I discuss this type of thing, and it's cool to hear you're on the same page as me with the solo artist thing. If I look at a painting, if I look at a Van Gogh, and I can't paint for for my life, but if I look at like a Van Gogh or a Dali or something, I'm looking at a Dali. I'm looking
Mm-hmm.
at something that like Dali had some experience in his life or somehow he crystallized his life experience and emotion or something into this one timeless piece of art, whether that's a painting or music or a film or dance or whatever it is. But with music, the music industry these days, I find it really bizarre, and no one talks about it. But this is the most ubiquitous thing in music that nobody discusses, and I think it's weird that no one talks about it. That if you're a fan of like I don't know like The Weeknd or whoever, I'm not trying to pick on him personally, but like you're literally like clapping for someone who didn't even produce the art that you're enjoying. Like if I'm looking at a painting, that is strictly Dali. He did that. If I'm listening to a Taylor Swift album, I don't know who wrote that, or a Beyonce album. I don't know who produced that. This is some sort of corporate thing that it would not have existed if there wasn't a buck to be made off it. And it has
Sure.
like 15 different, there's too many cooks. There's like 15 people working on the thing. I just disagree with that. I don't think I'm listening to someone's soul, you know?
Yep, and I actually bring that up a lot in these interviews that I do. Something related to that anyway, about how in today's music industry, it's very kind of oversaturated with artists and everything, but that's actually a good thing because the more artists that there are out there expressing their personality and their art, it allows for the actual listener, the consumer of music, to very fine tune, select who they support, the personalities that they resonate with, the art that they like. So yes, there is a lot of people out there. There is oversaturation. There is a battle for attention, but it's actually a really good thing for the listener that that exists.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's decentralization is the move, like big fan in that regard.
Awesome. So, getting back on track here,
Yeah.
where do you want to see your project go? Where do you want to be in 5 or 10 years?
That's a great question. So here's the thing. I want to, at this point, like I'm 32. So in 5 or 10 years, that's probably the window we're talking about here, like realistically. But that's fine. Like I have no qualms about not being one of these Gen Zers or some TikTok or whatever. Like I don't care. I'm not going to win those fans and I don't really want those fans. So no worries. But my goal is to find an audience of like passionate music fans who really enjoy the music that I make, um, because it might help them, or they just like the melody, or they're musicians and appreciate the production, or whatever. But just people that the music really resonates with and who listen to things with a critical ear, and are looking for something original and passionate. I want enough of those people uh, on my side to the point where I can support myself just making original music. That's the goal. Like I would love to do nothing but just make my own music, not covers, not clickbait things, not little stupid dance videos or whatever, just original music that didn't exist before I made it. I want to just do that. It's like same thing with like painters. Like they're not out there copying like paintings all day or like doing that. It's weird. That's why I left Nashville in like a month. I lived I moved there after New Hampshire, and I was there a month, and I said I'm out of here because you're a cog in a machine.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I prefer the originality, and I would love to succeed to the point where I have a Wikipedia article written about me that I'm not allowed to edit and that I get frustrated at. So that's pretty much to be. I don't care to be some famous, like I can't go into the supermarket. Like I don't even want that life. I just want low key, under the radar, sort of some quiet confidence that I'm like, hey, I got some people who know my stuff and really like my stuff, you know?
Awesome. Yeah, I think that's completely attainable and a relatable goal. That's great.
Yeah.
So what are some of your favorite memories that you've had in the time that you've been, learning instruments and writing music and, being a part of the scene?
Um, it's maybe this is going to sound like a really like like weird or underwhelming answer, I should say, or not prestigious. Like there's no trophies or ribbons or anything involved when I'm saying any of this stuff. But some of my favorite moments have honestly been like certain songs that I've worked on that I'll just sit there and we're in Colorado, so I can say this, maybe a little bit influenced. I'll sit there and listen to a song that I've produced. One of my favorite memories like was this song off my last album called Montreal. It's my favorite song that I've released so far, although I do have a new favorite on the upcoming album coming out. But I've like cried listening to that a bunch of times. Like I remember distinctly sitting in my room by myself with no audience, with just my headphones on. So this is like a very personal like experience, but it was just me like listening to the thing that I made, and I was like, you know what? I'm pretty damn proud of myself for that one. And like it touched me. It meant a lot to me. So just sitting there like crying, listening to that song really loud, like the first time that I thought it was properly ready. That's one of my favorite memories. Despite there being no ticker tape parade or ribbons or ceremony, it was just literally my own moment. But
Sure.
yeah, yeah.
That's completely valid. I think so. All right. Well, what are some of your social media links? Where can people find you and listen to the albums you put out?
Yeah, so I'm on OnlyFans, Doctor. No, I'm just joking. I'm on Instagram and wherever. If you just search my name, Dan Bauer, Bauer, like the hockey stuff. No relation, as I'm currently struggling financially. But it's at Dan Bauer Music, all one word. I'm mostly more active on the gram, but I'm not trying to be a very social media attached person anyway. So find my stuff there. I also do direct and edit my own music videos and put a lot of effort into that. So if you want to check those out on YouTube, I think I've come up with, I mean, not to toot my own horn here, but the view counts aren't super impressive, but I think that the concepts and the content of the music videos that I've done are pretty cool and unique. So if anyone was interested in checking that out, I think they might get a kick out of some of the videos at the very least. It's coming up this summer. One is dropping on June 6th and it's 6 songs, and one's dropping on July 7th and it's 7 songs. And the first one is so the 666 777 thing. So the first one is called My Demons in Me, and the second one is called Divinity Infinity. And they're very thematic. I know those sounds like very short amounts of songs for albums, but each of them are over 30 to 45 minutes, so they're they're real album lengths. But anyway, so that's what I'm dropping this summer for anyone interested.
So I always like to give the person I'm interviewing the chance to put out their last word. So a final message you want to throw out there that you feel you resonate with.
Yeah, we're living in some crazy times, so I hope everyone just proceeds as kindly as they can and just tries to look within, think of their fellow person, and just try not to, I don't know, be the source of anyone else's suffering, you know?